I'm Michael with WriterSanctuary. Now, is Reedsy Studio in the free version worthwhile as a writer? Now, as a self-published author, I did write and publish Kingmaker from the free version of Reedsy, but I do have the pro version now, which is going to be publishing Shadows of Night City and Fury. With that being said, it's not to say that there's not pros and cons for the free version of Reedsy Studio. So today, let's take a look at those pros and cons and see if it's worthwhile for you. Again, let me reiterate, today we're just doing the pros and cons of the free version of Reedsy Studio. It does have a pro version, which unlocks a lot of the stuff I'm going to point out today, but not everybody has money for paid services. So let's take a look at Reedsy. So the first thing I want to point out is it does have a free version that is completely usable. I was able to publish Kingmaker from it, and the book came out exceptionally well. I also showed a video about how the book comes out after it's been printed directly from Reedsy Studio, uploaded to Amazon, of course, and the book came out awesome. So that's the first pro of Reedsy Studio, is that it does have a workable free version. Another pro is that it's extremely easy to use. All of its tools are laid out beautifully. There's no guessing as to where everything's at. You're able to add pages and work on your manuscript with no issues at all. Adding additional pages to it just requires a simple click of the mouse. From here, we can add the dedication, epigraph, forward. You have all your basic front matter pages. Then you have more in your body. So like the prologue, the introduction, conclusions, the epilogue, and afterward. Then you also have the back matter, which includes the about the author and about, you also buy me if you want to market more books. So all you gotta do is just click on this button and it adds a page and you can click into it. So it's really easy to use. And that's just the pages. You also have access to setting up goals and all that, which I'll go over here in a second. Bottom line is that it's quite simplistic and you don't have to go digging for settings. Another pro that I found about the free version of Reedsy Studio is that it formats the book while you write. So that way you don't have to pay too much attention to creating paragraphs or making sure your indents are properly placed for conversations or whatnot. Essentially, when you're writing, it looks like you're writing in a book. That is light years ahead of something like Autocrit or even Atticus, where it has that long, massive, wraparound looking text screen. I don't like it. I'm a fan of proper margins. So while you're writing the book, it'll automatically implant all of those indents for you. Another pro for Reedsy Studio is that you're able to manage your deadlines and goals quite easily. So on the main screen, all we gotta do is click on the goals and insights. And let's say that we want to set a manuscript goal of, we'll say 75,000 words that we want done by, how about the end of the year? So all we gotta do is just configure the days that we write by using this link here. And then we're gonna say we're gonna write Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. We're gonna hit save. And then we can hit the create goal button, which will go a little bit into it. And you'll also notice that Reedsy will tell you that you need to write 2,500 words per day. That's the Monday, Wednesday, Friday writing to finish the book on time. And then it'll keep track of all the progress that you made throughout the entire week. Now you will notice that there's a lot of other features you can add if you pay for the upgraded version, and you can only create so many goals. If you wanted to create like daily and weekly goals, you'd have to upgrade, but you don't necessarily need it if you're writing your first book. That is, unless you're a big fan of numbers, then having those daily and weekly goals can be inspiring or motivating to keep you on task to write your book. Now, when I first wrote Kingmaker, all I did was stuck with the how often I write per day and then the deadline. And that worked great for me because I saw how many words I needed to write per day. It'll refresh every time you log in so that if you write extra words on one day, it'll recalculate how many words you need to write per day to finish. So the goals and insights part of Reedsy is probably one of my favorite. There's a few other features that I like, but I'm a big fan of goals. Now, another big feature for me of Reedsy Studio for free is being able to track all my comments and changes. So that way, if I need to go back and fix something, all I have to do is just go into the track changes and comments feature, and then if there was more here, it would show it. But I kind of just started this new book for the hell of it. It's on a completely different account from mine, so that you can see what the free version is all about. And as you write every day, it'll start creating those changes for you. Um, you might want to upgrade because if you were into the tracking, the changes, and all that, because it adds more features to that tracking. But if you don't care about tracking it, then it doesn't really matter. Now, one pro that I love about Reedsy Studio for free is that all the plugins that you have on your browser should work in the platform, at least the ones that manage text. For example, I use the Grammarly plugin for kind of an advanced spell checker. Plus, it has a synonym list that if you double click a word, it'll show you available synonyms. I kind of like that function for Grammarly, but I usually get most of my synonyms from Google because I have another window open. But Grammarly works great in Reedsy Studio, as does quite a few of the dark mode plugins that I've tested on it. Now, I can't say for sure that every plugin for your browser will work in Reedsy, because that would just be an insane amount of plugins to test. But the ones that I use don't have a single problem. Another feature that I like about Reedsy Studio in the free version as well is that if you highlight a single section of text, the tooltip will come up and you can change formatting inside the manuscript. So if you were to highlight something like these few words here, it'll pop up with your whole list of goodies. You got paragraph, you can change the headings, you got your alignments, turn bullet lists, numbered lists, quotations. You can add HTML. I've never added a code block, so I'm not sure exactly how well that works. I just write pure novels, so I don't need all the good fancy stuff. But I have played around with all of these tools, and probably the most important to keep in mind is the comment function. From here, you can add a comment like this needs, this needs reworded. And then hit comment, bam. And now we have a comment here that is a reminder that I need to reword that later on. And if I wanted to track all this, turn on track changes, and it'll record every change that I make. I use the comment tool quite a bit, especially if I'm after the first draft, I'll read it, and then I'll highlight problematic areas that I might want to add more detail to or remove because it doesn't really make sense in the scene, or maybe I need to highlight a scene, or maybe I forget to name a character and then I have to comment, got to give this guy a name. So all kinds of functions that come from the comment tool. And the comments also work when you're collaborating with other authors, which I'll demonstrate here in a second. Now, the next function is if you're interested in having people beta read your manuscript without being able to edit anything. They get a read-only version, which is it works, but they have to scroll down. So, like if they read 2 or 3 chapters and they have to come back to it, they have to scroll all the way back down to where they were to continue reading. It doesn't save, which is kind of a pain in the ass, but it is doable. So, in order to do that, you just go over to where it has the share here, and then we can create a whole new link. Say that it expires. We'll like set the expiration date by the end of November, and then you can give people the access to the entire book or just share selected chapters. I'm going to create a link, and then we just share this link with whoever we want to beta read. And if we want to get rid of it, we just click over here, and you can either edit the link, which we can add more time to if people haven't read it all the way, or we can just revoke it altogether. So now that URL does not work. But it's a quick and easy way to give somebody a read-only version of your book to see if there's anything they would suggest they change. I used to use it for beta reading when I had people on Buy Me a Coffee. It's a great thing for members-only content. And lastly, probably one of the most important additions that Reedsy Studio has made over the last year and a half, for me anyway, is the ability to collaborate. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier, where people can help you collaborate to either help you write the book or even add suggestions when editing. They do have to have their own Reedsy account, but it can be a free account, even if you're on a paid version. So the collaboration feature is actually in the same place as sharing. As you see, when I clicked on the sharing spot, we can invite somebody. So we'd send out all the emails to all the different people that we want to help collaborate on this book, and they'll show up in a list on the right. Now, when they log in at the same time you do, they all get their own colors. And so like they'll have their little icon, which is, like the MB here. It'll show up on the left and tell you who they are and the color that they represent. You can see that I'm representing this blue line right here. They could be red, purple, green. At one time we had orange, I think, because I had 5 people on at once. But these people are also able to create comments of stuff just like that. And then they can tell you what they think of it, the line, or if maybe they need something changed. This has been an awesome feature to have, especially if I can't really afford $4,000 for an editor, so having like 2 or 3 people go through and help me tighten up the text, very worthwhile. They also have the ability to change your manuscript, so you got to trust who you're collaborating with because they can go through and rewrite the entire book. Luckily, you can go back into track changes, especially if you're on the paid version of Reedsy, and revert everything back to where it was before somebody messed it up. That's why that's one of the reasons why I think upgrading Reedsy Studio is probably more ideal than using just the free version. That is, if you're as long as you're having people help you. If you're doing it by yourself, then you probably don't need it. But never underestimate the value of good editing, especially from somebody who reads a lot. Okay, so those were the pros that I found the most helpful from the free version of Reedsy Studio. Now let's take a look at some of the cons. Now, the first con that I have for Reedsy Studio may not be that much of a con for you, but it has limited formatting options. Now, when I'm talking about the formatting options, I am talking about how the book is exported when you're ready to upload it as an ebook or for print. Reedsy only currently has 3 different ways that you can export the book. There is an export page where you can go to access when you manage your book, and you can do a print ready PDF or an EPUB. But the formatting part of it comes down at the bottom here. We got trim sizes, which you have access to the most common industry standards, and your templates, which is Reedsy, Classic, and Romance. And as you can see, there's a few different fonts that change with it, but that's all you got. As opposed to a tool like Atticus that has like a plethora of ways you can format your book, including creating a customized version of the formatting. So you can do all kinds of fonts, all kinds of really neat things with Atticus. I just hate the way Atticus writes. Reedsy, unfortunately, only has those 3, even in the Pro version. Now, they are talking about adding more functions to the formatting tool, so I'll probably have to remake this video again. But in its current state, you only have those 3. I used the Reedsy Merriweather font for Kingmaker, and I'm probably going to keep it justified with all 4 of the books that are in that series because I want them all to look similar. And it looks nice and they read nice. When the print version came out great, like I said earlier, I didn't have a single problem with Reedsy's formatting for print or for the ebook. So that might not be a big issue for you, but if you want to further customize your formatting for your book, you might want to export this into a different tool like Atticus. Another con of using the free version of Reedsy Studio is that you only have a few exporting options. Like I just showed you that you have access to PDFs and EPUBs. You can also export it as a backup as a docx file, but those are the only 3. Now, for the most part, this isn't going to cause much of an issue because most online book platforms use either PDFs or EPUBs. So that's probably a reason why a lot of people are dumping things like Mobi and all that because EPUB and PDF and docx are the most prolific throughout the entire internet. So that's probably not much of a con for you, especially if you're just starting out and you just want to create an ebook. EPUB's the way to go. Another con that might not be much of a con for you is that it does save to the cloud. Reedsy will store all of your books forever. And as far as I know, I don't think there's a limit to how many books you can actually save on Reedsy's platform. Now, on my paid version, I've got 7 books saved on it. 1 is published, 1's about to be published, and I'm 95,000 words into a 3rd. And then I kind of started with the 4th, but anyway, the point is that I've got a lot of books saved on Reedsy that I'm working on, and they've been there for a while. Now, the reason why I say this is a con is because I like to have control over my saves and my backups. So, like, if my internet goes down, I can't write anymore. I'm fucked. But that also means that as long as I have a browser, I can write from anywhere I have an internet connection. I don't have to install anything on my computer. I just would rather have control over my backups. Now, you can go into Manage and download your docx files, or you can even back up an EPUB if you like. So you can go into Manage and download manually. I just would rather have an automatic backup saving system, something similar to maybe, I don't know if Scrivener has an automatic, but does have built-in saves on your computer. So Scrivener in that regard is much better for what I'm looking for, but I adapted with using the cloud, so that might not be an issue for you. It's not really all that much of a deal breaker for me, which is why I still use Reedsy Studio. Another con that I have that was kind of fixed with the Pro version is that there's no split screen view, like in let's see, in Scrivener. In Scrivener, you have your one screen where you can write all your manuscript, and then you have another screen where you can fill out things like your outline or details about who the characters are. You can pretty much put anything in that second screen for a split view, and it makes writing so much easier. Now, before Reedsy did have this available for free in the planning board, but they locked the planning board behind a paywall, which I'm going to demonstrate here in a second. But the way Reedsy got around it with the Pro version is that you can pin a note to your manuscript while you write. So if you have an outline, you can still have that outline right there in front of you while you type. Problem is that you can only have one note saved there at a time. It is so much easier to change that pinned note or as the split screen view in something like Scrivener, because you can just select that window, then click whatever you want, and it'll show it. In Reedsy Studio, though, you have to go into the planning board, find the thing you want to pin it, and then come back to the manuscript and scroll down to where you were. So it's a little bit more of a pain in the ass, but I got it to work decently for me, and it wasn't a deal breaker for me. It just would have been handier if it worked a little bit more like Scrivener. Now, another con that free Reedsy Studio has that even the Pro version doesn't have is that there's no preview window. Unfortunately, a lot of writing apps don't have a preview window. I just wish that Reedsy did have a preview window so you can see what it looks like before you export the book. And being able to change what size it's on, like between a 6x9 or an 8.5 by 11 size print book or an ebook. But yeah, there's no preview window for either version of Reedsy. And lastly, you have very limited access to the planning board. Now, technically, you can access the planning board and create new plans, but you really can't dive too much into them. So, like if I was to go in, and I created this one before, I was able to create this one here. Unfortunately, I can't type anything in it. I can't add attributes. All I can do is create a title and a description. No images because it's locked behind a paywall. And I can't add any text down here unless I upgrade. Well, in this case, I can start the free trial, but my other account has Pro, so I don't really need it. But it is really not much you can do to it. So I'm not even sure why you even have the planning board accessible in the free version if you can't really do much to it. You can't pin them, so if you try to pin it, start your 30-day trial. So it's a paid thing on Reedsy, which is kind of a bummer because back in 2023, the planning board was one of my favorite features of the free version of Reedsy Studio, and they locked it behind a paywall. So there you have it. Those are 15 pros and cons of using the free version of Reedsy Studio. I will be creating one for the pro version, which will probably have similar pros and cons to it. Some of them are a little bit different because of the things that are unlocked when you pay for it. But it's a free tool. I still, if it wasn't for, so the planning board, taking away the planning board was bad for me, but I still was able to write and publish Kingmaker before they even implemented the planning board. So I was still able to publish my first book without even completely for free. It's a great platform to try out, and I haven't tried any of Reedsy's other services. Like they have services for editing, marketing, PR people. I mean, they got a slew of professionals that you can hire directly from your account. I never have the money to do all that yet, so I haven't really tried their services. I don't know how they work. But Reedsy Studio is one of my favorite writing apps, and I will continue to keep using it for the foreseeable future. Now, I do have other writing apps that I use for specific purposes, like I use Scrivener for writing the audiobook Despair that I have on YouTube. We played around with Focuswriter to write short stories. So there's a lot of different things I like to do, and I like to try different apps to see if I can find one that works better than what I was using. In the past, I was using LibreOffice, and then I started playing around with different writing apps. I came across Reedsy Studio, then I went gung-ho on it, and so I'm always on the lookout for other writing apps. But at the moment, so far, all my books have been written and published through Reedsy Studio. But if you do have the money, I would suggest upgrading. It's only I think it was like $120, $127 a year or something like that for both the writing and the planning board. You can buy one or the other so to make it cheaper. But if you're really ardent about writing and self-publishing, Reedsy Studio is a good app to take a closer look at to see if it's something you'd want to use. It's free to try out, write a book. You don't lose anything but time. So what kind of features would you like to see in Reedsy Studio? I remember back in the day when I made the first pros and cons list, collaborations was one of the cons that they didn't have. And then maybe 6 months later, a little bit longer than that, they um, put the collaborations in, which was a game changer for me. I love having collaborators. So that is definitely easily in the top 3 of my favorite features of Reedsy. But I do love the goals. So it's really hard to say which one's my favorite. Anywho, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button for more videos about self-publishing, blogging, freelance writing, or anything else I cover. Hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. I think it's going to do it for me today. I'm going to get back to writing my book. I'll see you next time.